So before we end this section, you can actually create libraries to add functions there and macros there that you can use globally between all of the blueprints. And this is pretty useful if there's a function that you have to use everywhere. You'll have to put it inside of the library and you can access it everywhere. So I just want to show you how to make a library before we go to the example. And let's make a new folder. If you right click and make a new folder, let's call it blueprints. It's always nice to be organized. And inside of the blueprints folder, let's go inside of blueprints. And here you can make a blueprint function library or a blueprint macro library. Let's make a blueprint function library. And for this library, you can call it anything. For example, let's just call it library for now. And if you double click it, you can see here that now we are inside of a graph, and this looks just like our event graph that we worked on over here, but this is actually the library and it only contains functions. So let's say I wanted to use a function, for example, to print out a message. So I'm just going to call my function print message, and this function is just going to contain print string, and I'm going to say this is from my library. Okay, so now it's going to print a message saying this is from my library. If I compile and save, you can also add a return node if you want to make it look clean. Okay, so now we can access this function because it's inside of our library. We can access it anywhere. So if I go back to my level blueprint, and over here, I am going to write the name of this function that I made. I'm going to go back and I'm going to write print message. And now you can see inside of class and library, you can see the print message. And also, if you go down here in class and library, you can see all of your library functions. Okay, so you can click on print message. And now if you connect it, and let's compile and click on play. Whoops, click on play. You can see this is from my library. So this is how you make functions inside of libraries. If you want to access them everywhere, you can see that they do not pop up here because the function is not made inside of here. They're made inside of the library. And if I make multiple blueprints, which we will do later, you can use the function in all of these blueprints instead of going inside of each blueprint and trying to make the function, the same function. That will be just a waste of time. So going inside of the library, creating the function that you will use all the time, and then going back to all of these blueprints and using this function. Now remember, you don't want to make all of the functions inside of here, only those you want to use all the time. So if there's a specific functions inside of here, you don't really want to go in here and make it because maybe you only want to access it here or you want to access it between two different blueprints. This is only used for when you really need to access blueprints all over the place. And remember that this will actually affect the game performance if you have a huge library that you have to access. Remember only to use it when you have to use it. For example, in this case, let's say we want to print this message in all blueprints that we have. I'm going to use it, and only use it if you have to access a function many places and not only just one place or two places. So there isn't really a rule for when to add it here, but you can just try to judge when you want to add it here and when you want to make it inside of here. The same thing goes with the macros. I don't really want to make one, but let's just quickly make the library. And you can see here, you can choose what kind of library you want to make. And this is a bit more confusing because we haven't really talked about those. And if I click on actor, you can see here now you have a macro, and this macro only works for actors. And I don't really want to get into it for now. We have lessons for this. So let's not talk about this, but just to say that you can create libraries for macros too, and you can create all of the macros you want to create just like you did with the function library. All right, let's go over to the next lesson and let's take an example of all what we've learned and try to learn better by doing it in practice.